right. I think we're live. Let me just double check something and see. Let's see. Okay, it's working. Woohoo! Hi, everyone. My name is Bernadette Desir, and I am the founder and host of the Unleashing Potentials podcast. And joining me today is beautiful Witlee. And we're going to be talking about Mental Health Awareness Month, mental health in general. And you're going to hear Whitney's perspective. And please feel free to connect with us if you have any questions, any comments, or if you want to share your experience with mental health. Maybe you work in the mental health field. Maybe you yourself have mental health diagnosis. Whatever it is, would love to hear from you. But I'm gonna let Witlee introduce herself. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Bernadette, for having me on. I am a speaker. I'm a contributing author on the Grace for Prosperity book series. I'm a podcast host of Live Each Day with Purpose podcast. I am a victim advocate for legislative reform. So I wrote a bill that is currently being worked on by legislators that will hopefully pass, that would help to protect the rights of victims and survivors of sexual assault. I'm also a certified life and relationship coach. So mental health is very important to me, and that I'm able to help coach clients through any patterns or anything that's keeping them stuck so that they can have the optimal life and really have successful relationships in life and love. And I serve on the board of Healed and Restored, which is an organization that helps victims and survivors of sexual abuse.
Thank you for sharing. Also, I had Witlee on the podcast, I think last week. So
Yes.
yeah, it was an incredible, profound episode. If you want to know more of her story and what we talked about, please feel free to check the full episode on YouTube, the Unleashing Potentials podcast YouTube channel, also on Spotify. Yeah. So Witlee, are you ready to dive into today's topic?
Yes, absolutely. So I was telling Bernadette that for the month of May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, I put together the ABCs of mental health. Things that I thought were really important as just quick tips to help people, as we all kind of deal with mental health in some aspect. Whether you have been actually diagnosed or if you just deal with something, every now and again. But mental health impacts all of us. And so it also impacts every other aspect of your life. It impacts your physical health. I mean, it impacts every area. And so it's really important to get a good handle on your mental health for optimal overall health. So the ABCs of mental health that I put together was A is for awareness. It's really important to practice awareness. And there's a lot of people that it just has kind of become this thing, I would say, as of late, especially on social media, where we're finding also as coaches and therapists that it's so crucial to have a level of awareness, self-awareness in your life. And that's even now been kind of a thing that people who are single are like, oh, I need to, it's not just what do they do? Are they attractive? It's, do they have a level of self-awareness? Like that's kind of become a non-negotiable, because we do need to have a level of self-awareness or just awareness of our environment, of us, of our nervous system, of how we respond to others, of being able to pick up on how people are responding to us. That's really important. Balance is for B. Balance is really important because there needs to be that balance in life. Like you can't be going in work and then, not have time to do your personal. Like you need to have that good balance, but that also comes with boundaries. You need to be able to have boundaries in place, and you can't always be the yes person, which can lead to people pleasing. You have to be able to know your limits and be able to say no when you need to say no and not feel bad about it. Connection is for C.
Mhm.
Connection is so important. How do you connect with others? What are your goals in wanting to connect with others? Are you able to connect with others? A lot of times, because of things we've gone through,
Mhm.
whether it's been the environment we were exposed to, how we were raised, maybe it was experiences we experienced, might cause issues with us being able to connect with others. But we need connection. It helps us to grow. Connection's also really good at pointing out areas where we need to work on and heal.
Yeah.
When you're isolated and alone, you don't know what those areas are until you get in front of other people and you're like, oh, wow, I'm feeling
Mhm.
triggered, or oh, this is not feeling this isn't feeling comfortable, and it pushes you out of your comfort zone. But you need that to grow. Um, D is for diet and exercise.
Mhm.
Food is so important to our growth, our mental growth, our physical growth. It's
Mhm.
also something a lot of people struggle with. There's a lot of eating disorders. There's a lot of people that have negative body views, negative self-esteem, self-worth, um, that impacts
Mhm.
their health. Um, and exercise, are you someone that likes to exercise? Are you motivated? Um, you don't have to be in the gym necessarily. There's so many different ways that you can get exercise in. You could go for a hike, you could go for a walk, you could do Pilates. There's like so many different, you could take a dance class. It doesn't have to be the grueling in the gym every day, working on the weight machine. There's so many different ways to move your body. The importance is just getting your body moving.
Mhm.
E is emotional regulation. Do you know how to regulate your emotions? This is really important because if you are out of control, unable to control your emotions, responding really quickly to things emotionally,
Mhm.
easily irritable, it's not going to help you in your relationships. But it's also um, going to cause a lot of harm to you in that you're not really in control of things. And being in control of our emotions is huge. Um, you it shows a level of stability, and so that's really important. F, fulfillment. What fulfills you?
Mhm.
What things in your life make you happy and bring you joy? This life is hard.
Yeah.
Find joy in the little things. I
Mhm.
mean, it could be, I'm gonna go for a walk with my favorite coffee drink, and I'm just gonna like enjoy the nice weather. And that could be
Mhm.
very fulfilling. It could be, I'm gonna go set up a picnic in the park. I'm gonna go look at the beautiful architecture in the city. Like, what fulfills you?
Mhm.
This is really important in knowing what you like and don't like, because in relationships, sometimes people will get into a relationship and not know who they are or what they like and don't like. And it becomes whatever that person likes and doesn't like. And
Yeah.
they never get to know themselves. Um, but that's also not good, because now you're in a relationship where you're just going along with whatever they want to do. And
Mhm.
that person doesn't want to date themselves, they want to date you.
Mhm.
So, gratitude. Life, as I said, can be hard. So it's really important to take time to think of things that you're thankful for. Today, I'm thankful I woke up.
Mhm.
Today, I'm thankful for sunshine. Today, I'm thankful for the doors that are opening. Like, what can you be grateful for? It will help to train your brain and cause you to see the more positive than to focus on any negative that's happening.
Mhm.
H is for help seeking. And I was sharing a little bit earlier with Bernadette of how um, there's a lot of negative connotation when people seek help. And one of the things I was sharing with her is that it seems like, and there's been a lot of this lately, and I think this is really important to talk about with mental health. Over the last year, there's been a lot of people, especially influencers, celebrities, that have been committing suicide.
Mhm.
And so many things I've seen on social media was, oh, if only they had come forward, if only they had reached out for help, I would have been more than happy to help them.
Mhm.
But here's the thing, and that's a great sentiment. That's
Yeah.
great that you're saying that.
Mm.
But far too often, people reach out for help and they don't receive the help.
Yeah.
So why are we offering help after the fact?
Mhm.
And I will say that a lot of times not receiving help leads to further mental health struggles.
Mhm.
For instance, victims of violence, victims and survivors, um, it can be very frowned upon when we ask for help. I'm talking about myself included. It seems like it's a lot more acceptable when someone asks for help if they're dealing with a physical illness,
Yeah.
whatever that physical illness may be. When you hear that someone is physically sick or they're struggling or they're going through surgery or having to go through any type of procedure, you're like, oh my gosh, poor you. How can we help? Do you need Meals on Wheels? Do you need this? Do you need that? Then comes the victims and survivors of violence, and they're like, I need help. Can you help with this? And it's crickets. It's treated so differently. Because for whatever reason, our society looks at people that are dealing with physical ailments and illnesses and diseases as they're the victim. This was a tragic thing that happened to them that they didn't cause. And
Mhm.
for whatever reason, which completely boggles my brain, is that people look at victims and survivors of violence as somehow you're responsible.
Mm.
You caused this.
Mm.
Why would we help you when you got yourself in this mess? And let me make this very clear.
Mhm.
That is uh, a very messed up um, mindset, perception of victims of violence, victims and survivors, and you're not helping anybody when you have that mindset. It actually just further blames and shames those that are going through it.
Mhm.
Um, and it says a lot about the people that have that mentality, that
Yeah.
you would think that violence is something that they caused. When, listen, if we could stop the violence, we could have.
Yeah.
But not only could we not stop it, we didn't cause it either.
Yeah.
And so that adds to mental health issues. When you feel silenced, dismissed, you don't feel heard, you don't feel validated, it adds to that. And so there's a lot of suicides or suicide ideation that comes from that could be prevented if our society was more mindful and aware of how we address and receive what's being shared.
Mhm.
We often get mixed messages of saying you need to be authentic, you need to be vulnerable, and you need to come forward, and you need to be able to share things. And it's like, oh no, can't hear that.
Yeah.
We didn't really want to hear that. Now you've made us uncomfortable. We didn't want to hear that. And it's like,
Mhm.
well, which one is it? I mean, we have a mental health crisis across the world
Yeah.
because people are so quick to respond without taking into consideration what's the appropriate way to respond. And that's not the appropriate way to respond.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I think even Mariska Hargitay had said it in a quote that how you respond to someone who has cancer is exactly the same way you should be responding to victims of violence and victims and survivors of violence the same way.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry you're going through that. How can I help?
Yeah.
That's how you should be responding.
Mhm.
And gosh, if we just showed that kindness and that acceptance, think of the difference that would make in our world.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So help seeking, I mean, this is so huge.
Mhm.
Let's stop being supportive or pretending to be supportive
Mhm.
after someone ends their life because they didn't get the support. because
Mhm.
they knew that by asking for support, they were just going to be mistreated and ignored and rejected.
Mhm.
Um, our society is really fake at times. Um, and that
Yeah.
doesn't help our mental health.
Mm.
So let's try to be more real and authentic
Yeah. Yeah.
everywhere. So we can create a safe space where people really truly can say, you know what, I'm struggling and I need help. Is there a way that you can help me? Do you know someone that could help me? Rather than, and I will tell you this, I can't tell you how many times I've actually reached out to people for help. Can you pray? Crickets. No, they wouldn't even pray for me. Can
Yeah.
you, do you have resources? They would offer resources and then they get quiet. Or I would get, you're still dealing with this?
Mm.
Yeah, I'm still dealing with this. Are you gonna tell somebody that's dealing with a physical ailment that, oh gosh, you still need
Mm.
help? You're still dealing with this?
Yeah.
How insensitive and
Mhm.
cruel.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
there's so many things in this world we can't control
Mhm.
as to a timeline of what they are. So why are we expecting people to control timelines they're completely in control, out of control of? Like, I can't control how long it takes to deal with the aftermath of violence or a court case that's dealing with violence and getting a victim, survivor, justice. Um, that's something out of our control.
Mhm.
Same as if you're struggling with an illness, you're struggling with uh physical ailments, a disease, you have no control over how long that's going to take. Again,
Yeah.
kindness.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I always tell people kindness is free.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's how I would think it takes more effort to be unkind than it takes to actually be kind. I
Yeah.
mean, just even giving someone a smile can really make their day when they might be walking around thinking no one sees me. And then you
Mhm.
smile and they're like, someone saw me.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not invisible. But
Yeah.
I feel like to be unkind
Mhm.
is like intentionally going out of your way to make someone's life difficult. And
Mhm.
why? I mean, that says more about you who's doing that than it does about how you're treating the person
Mhm. Mhm.
that's receiving your unkindness.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a them issue, it's a you issue.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think I've shared, on different parts on different episodes is this. I find that hurting people hurt people. Not that it's an excuse to let it happen for it to be
Mhm.
continue to go on. And I think there's so many different sides of people hurting people because they're hurting. Is the person hurting that person? Are they trying to get help? Are they trying to work something out? But it's definitely no excuse to be cruel in return because they're hurting.
I've also seen that kind of used against victims and survivors of violence.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
where I actually had gone to a church to actually ask them about putting together a program, because
Mhm.
oftentimes in churches they have, like, if someone's sick in the hospital, they have a group that will
Yeah.
go to the hospital and meet with the person who's sick and pray with them. And I said,
Mhm.
well, what do you have in place for when parents find out their child was molested,
Mhm.
or for victims of violence? What do you
Mhm.
have in place? And they're like, that's not even needed. And they said, listen, hurt people, and victims and survivors are hurt people. And we don't want to be dealing with that because they're going to hurt other people. And I'm like, that's a choice. Anybody can hurt somebody,
Yeah. Yeah.
but hurt people don't always hurt people. Sometimes hurt
Mhm.
people heal people.
Mm.
And I saw this video on Instagram. It's by Dr. Joe. He's a Instagram influencer, and he said, heroes and villains, the thing they have in common is pain. But what happened is one decided to take their pain and help other people. Well, the other decided to take their pain and hurt more people. And I think that's so true, is
Mm.
that when someone's hurt, you have a choice. Are you going to hurt other people because of what you went through? Or are you going to use it to help other people because you desperately don't want anyone to go through what you went through? And that's what I've tried to do with my platform, is use it to help people.
Yeah.
So I think we need to, I think there's oftentimes been many people that I've seen that have platforms and they claim to help all women and do all this stuff. And then they end up hurting women because not all women are the type of women they want to have anything to do with. And so then you're kind of discriminating. And you're not helping, you're actually causing harm. And so we need to really be careful that when we make blanket statements of, I help all of this type of group of people, that you truly help all of this type of group of people, and that you're not excluding anyone because you don't feel that they have a place at your table.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Well
who are
said.
you? Who are
Yeah.
you to say that they don't have a place? Or who are you to decide what their worth is of whether or not they're good enough
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to be in your group, to be within your presence? Who are you? And
Mm-hmm.
I think we so much, especially influencers, can get so caught up in the pedestal, the platform,
Yeah. Yeah. It's very
that we,
easy to get caught in that, eh?
yes, that you look down on people
Mm.
rather than taking the time to think, I was at once down there and I
Yeah.
might be elevated, but
Mm-hmm.
it took a lot of people for me to get to this place. I didn't get here by myself.
Yeah.
And how can I help pull other people with me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How can I help them move along?
Yeah.
That's really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I love your perspective and experience and ideas. It's refreshing. Um, so can you share with us some of your experiences with mental health, mental wellness?
Yeah. So I think with mental health, mental wellness, because of the trauma that I've gone through, um, and relationship trauma, I am a victim survivor of domestic and sexual violence, and of domestic abuse.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a toll on you. It
Yeah.
takes a toll on you mentally, emotionally, and physically. And so I've had to work very hard to overcome those struggles,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that I'm putting my optimal health, like that's a priority. And a lot of that comes from practicing self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's a lot out there about self-care, there's a lot out there about self-love. Um, and in a way they're kind of different. But why I focus on self-care is because you're caring for yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can't really be showing up and helping others until
Mm-hmm.
you've shown up and helped yourself. It's kind of like being on the airplane, and they always say if there's turbulence or there's an issue on the plane, you have to put your emergency mask on you first before you help anybody else. Because if there's a shortage of oxygen and you run out and you're busy trying to put a mask on somebody else and you haven't put it on yourself, what if you pass out before you get to help put their mask on?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're both going to be in trouble. So by
Mm-hmm.
putting it on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
then being able to help others, you need to make sure that you're getting the fuel you need, whether it's rest, whether it's exercise, whether it's the right food, um, whether it's self-care. And I know we kind of talked about this in the other episode of
Yeah.
everybody has different definitions of self-care. And
Mm-hmm.
I would dare say that there's a lot of people out there for whatever reason that are like, this is self-care, this isn't self-care. If you're doing this
Mm-hmm.
self-care, you don't know what self-care is, and yada yada. It's pointless. I don't see the point in going back and forth of
Yeah. Okay.
us determining what's someone's self-care, whether that's the right self-care or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's what is it to you?
Yeah.
What are ways that you can practice self-care in the chaos and busyness of everyday life? How do you do that?
Mhm.
Is it just going outside, sitting in the sunshine,
Mhm.
drinking a cup of coffee? Is it going for a quick drive just to clear your head?
Mhm.
Is it going on a hike? Is it just going to a coffee shop and maybe you're just sitting?
Mhm.
When you can sit in silence without the fear of how you look or, oh my gosh, I'm sitting here by myself, like you can just sit there and
Mhm.
be present, figuring out what's going on with your body. What are you
Mhm.
feeling? What are you thinking? It actually helps with grounding, which is a practice of
Mhm.
knowing, like, involving all the senses, especially if you are dealing with stress and anxiety.
Mhm.
Maybe you're about on the verge of a panic attack or an anxiety attack, and you're just struggling, or you're needing to majorly regulate your emotions. And you're struggling to do that. Grounding's really good with that. And what you do is you can either go out in nature or even inside. Say you're sitting on the couch
Mhm.
and you just dig your feet into the ground. So you're feeling, like, what does that feel like? Are your feet on the carpet? Do
Mhm.
you feel the texture of the carpet? Is your feet on the hard wood? Like, what is it?
Mhm.
Then there's seeing. What do you see? Okay, I see the sunlight coming in. It feels very warm. It seems like it's a sunshiny day. Okay, what are you hearing? Are you hearing the dishwasher? Are you hearing the washer and dryer going? Can you hear the garbage truck outside? Can you hear birds chirping? Like, what do you hear? So we have feel, hear, see, taste. Do you have coffee in your hand? Like,
I got
what?
tea.
Oh, yeah, coffee, tea. What is it?
Yeah.
What does it taste like? Can you
Mhm.
smell it? What does it smell like?
Mhm.
Touching can even be, is it warm? Is it cold? And just sitting with that. Um,
Mhm.
and then breathing. Breathing is so important. I usually try to do a thing called like the 3-3-3. So you breathe in, you do this 3 times. So breathe in, hold for 3 seconds.
Mhm.
So breathe in for 3 seconds, hold for 3 seconds, exhale for 3 seconds. You do it 3 times.
Mhm.
And again, mindfulness, practicing the grounding, it should help to alleviate the stress that you're feeling. It's just one of those tools that can help you when you might be faced with unexpected anxiety or feeling uncomfortable, or feeling out of your comfort zone. Maybe you're in a crowd of people and it would be so easy to practice breathing without people realizing what you're doing.
Yeah.
No, you're not bringing attention to yourself. You can just simply be looking around, taking in, the
Mhm.
scenery, taking in the people while practicing your breathing. Um, Easy tips like that. I think also knowing your limits.
Mhm. Mhm.
No, it's kind of falls in line with boundaries and, not always saying yes. You could be invited to something, but if you don't feel comfortable going, if you're like, I'm not up to it, having the courage to say, I'm going to stay in tonight, or I'm not going to be able to make it. Knowing your limits. You don't want to be pushing yourself too much because then you'll experience burnout.
Mhm.
And that can create a whole other host of problems. So knowing your limits,
Yeah.
being
Mhm.
able to say yes and no, but also it's really important noting when people respect your yes and no's. Or
Mm.
are they going to be the people that are like, come on, come on. I know you really want to do this. Like, don't say no. You really want to do this. Come on, just come on, and do this.
Mhm.
When you're trying to make it clear, I don't want to do this. Like,
Mm.
who's respecting and who's not.
Mhm.
Um, you know, that even can come down to dating and relationships and physical intimacy. If you've made it very clear that this is my boundary and this is as far as we're going to go in what our relationship is,
Yeah.
and say you're on a date they're walking to the front door. You've already made it clear you don't want to kiss on the first date. You really want to get to know them better. And they're like, hey, so, they're leaning in closer. I know that you said this, but I just thought we had a really great date. How about, can I kiss you? And you're like, no, I've already made that clear. That's not something I want to do. And yet they then continue to kind of push, well, I just thought you might want to change your mind.
Yeah.
Things like that can be red flags, because if they're starting to do that early on in a relationship, there's going to be so many other boundaries they're going to try to cross. And at that point, you have a choice. And you need to ask yourself, is this the type of conversation I want to keep having because my boundaries aren't being respected and my voice isn't being heard? And at that point, I would say you probably should say, you know what, thank you for the evening. But I wish you all the best.
Yeah.
And kind of just walk away. Because something to know about boundaries is the takers don't have any. And so it's really important to be firm in your boundaries. And that's how oftentimes those that are natural givers, very generous of spirit, can sometimes get taken advantage of, because they're so giving and they're so generous, and the takers are like, oh, this is great. They're not going to say no to me. I can ask them anything. They'll come to my help, my aid, whatever. And it's not good. You just become a doormat and get used. And so, just for your sanity, mental health, boundaries are a way of not only loving yourself and practicing self-care, but it's also a way of respecting yourself. That's so important. Because those that take advantage of people are looking for people who don't have solid boundaries in place. They know they're going to be easier to take advantage of. So don't be that person. Like, have strong boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there's a second myth I want to talk about, is that mental health is a problem and it's a sign of weakness, which it's not. I think when we ask for help, it shows how strong we are in our pain and how vulnerable it is. It takes a lot of strength and power to say, I need help.
Yeah. 100%. So I think in regards to that, and I think that maybe makes it harder for people to come forward, is when it's seen as weakness, or that's a problem that they have, or there's something wrong with them. Again, going back to asking for help, that takes such courage to ask for help, especially when you're probably not going to get it, or it's not going to be well received. I mean, it's such a humbling thing. And it's a thing of vulnerability that it should be taken very seriously. Yes, mental health is not a sign of weakness. I think a lot of times when people go through with committing suicide, that there's so many things that they're dealing with, that it can be really hard for them. They can feel like a burden. They can feel like their mental health is never ending. It's never going to get better. What's wrong with me that I'm still dealing with this? And so I've heard and seen on social media of people saying, oh, it's so selfish, they just took their life. And I think that's really easy for some people to say that when maybe you haven't dealt with it.
Yeah.
but it is a never-ending battle, especially if you're dealing with suicide ideation. And I will say this. When I was sexually assaulted in 2020, I dealt with suicide ideation. I mean, I had to seek help or else I was not going to survive. Um,
Mm.
I was going to make it. And never ending battle of the mind is really what mental health is. And it's hard to turn it off. I mean, you are plagued with negative self-talk and just the overwhelming of it's just a spiral of things crashing.
Yeah.
And so it almost can seem like suicide or checking out is actually not a selfish thing, but it's like the only option is how it feels. It feels like it's the only option. It's the only way out. No one's helping, nothing's working. I don't know if I'll ever come through this. This is how it feels. And at that point in time, in the midst of dealing with the aftermath of the sexual assault, I was also dealing with a miscarriage from the pregnancy that resulted from that sexual assault. So
Mm.
there was so much I was dealing with.
Mhm.
Um, and you don't want to come across as weak. You want to come across like you have it all together. You are worried of how people are going to perceive you. And if you, depending on what you believe, if you think that if you die, you're going to go to heaven, heaven seems like a lot easier and a lot better than things that we're dealing with on this side of heaven. And so I get it. I get how hard that is, but I don't think people understand the mental battle of how strong that is,
Yeah.
of the constant, you're not good enough. Something's wrong with you. Um, your circumstances will never turn around. Things won't get better. And you can be plagued with so much regret and grief
Mhm.
and feeling like you don't have a place in this world. And so it's heartbreaking when you see someone that gave up, where the mental illness won out. Um, but you understand how hard of the fight was. But it
Mhm.
wasn't because they were weak. If anything, they felt that they were choosing something better
Yeah.
to escape what they were going through. And so I
Yeah.
want people to really understand that, because I know that there's a lot of blame that goes on people that go through with that. But I think people
Mhm.
really need to take time to understand the complexities of suicide and suicide ideation to really truly understand what someone's going through. It is not easy to overcome. And sometimes
Mhm.
there's still hard days, and it's sometimes almost an everyday type of thing for some people.
Mhm.
Check in on these people. Their battle's not over. And we can put a smile on our face and we can act like we're okay. And that's the thing that I was talking to you about earlier was so many people will say, "How are you?" And they want to hear you're fine,
Mhm.
but you're not fine. So if we're going to live in a society where we're going to wish that after someone commits suicide, that we wish they would have reached out and asked for help, then we need to be that society that when we ask people how they really are, we truly, really want to know.
Yeah.
We need to be prepared to hear, you know what? I'm not doing okay. I'm struggling.
Mhm. Yeah.
And even if all we can do is listen, at least
Mhm.
be that sounding board where they can feel heard.
Mhm.
And give them assurance of that sounds really heavy and
Mhm.
really hard. I can't imagine what you're going through,
Mhm.
but no, you're not alone. I'm here for you if you want to talk, but
Mhm.
know that if you left this earth, your loss would never be replaced.
Mm,
Like, you are
yeah.
needed and you are valued even in your struggle. You
Mm-hmm.
can help people. Like, people need to hear that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the fakeness isn't helping people
Mm,
overcome it.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, yeah.
It's just
And
helping to
yeah,
hide it and dismiss
yeah,
it.
yeah. And obviously if I've been in that situation with everything you shared. And if you're someone who's watching this or listening to this at a later time after the recording, obviously always seek help if it gets to that point. I've had to get help and it's not a sign of weakness, all right? And let's go to this other myth because we got to wrap up eventually soon here. Another myth I know and hear quite a bit about is that people with mental health diagnosis are violent and they're dangerous and therefore stay away from them.
Yeah. So let's think about this.
Mhm.
I would dare say that every single person on the planet
Mm,
has dealt with some type of mental health. And it could be so easy to say, well, oh, this happened because of this, and this happened because of that. Um, and again, it kind of goes back to what Dr. Joe was saying.
mhm,
Villains and heroes, it all stems from pain. And a lot of times when we do see something in the news of this person was violent and this person just committed this atrocity, and there was this, shooting, and it involved this many people and that many people, and then it comes out that they either dealt with a mental health issue or they were abused as a child. And instead of getting the help they needed, they then, it was kind of, okay, I was hurt, I'm going to hurt other people.
mm,
There's so many things that we could say as to why something caused whatever.
mhm,
A lot of times that can be excuses for the fact that we live in a very sinful, fallen, evil world. Evil exists regardless, around all of us. Anybody is capable of committing evil. It's a choice. We just choose not to. So
mhm.
rather than trying to, I think, always justify it or blame it, because there's a lot of people that struggle with mental health that don't commit crimes.
Yeah.
Again, it comes down to choice.
Mhm,
I think in a case that I talked about a little bit in the other episode with my ex-fiance, his attorney has tried to blame his abuse on his autism diagnosis.
mm,
That could open up Pandora's box to, all right, anybody with any type of condition, it's now justified that you did this because of this. And are we going to be pleading insanity? Are they going to be getting off and not serving time because now they can claim this was an issue or that was? I mean, it could cause so many different problems. So saying that you're autistic and you committed domestic abuse, that it's not really like that, it's somehow excuses it, is so wrong, because a crime is a crime, abuse is abuse. It doesn't matter what condition someone has. Uh, if you commit a crime, you still had a choice. Even people that are dealing with mental health issues, you still have a choice. Oftentimes in the news, we'll see people that mothers who drown their children and then they plead insanity.
mm,
I'm not saying they weren't dealing with mental health and that they didn't desperately need help,
mhm,
but their mental health issue is not justification for drowning their children.
mm. Yeah.
And they still need to be held accountable for the lives lost.
Mhm,
It's like, oh, mental health, all right, well, that takes care of that. No, there still needs to be accountability. It doesn't matter what you were dealing with, you chose to commit a crime.
mm,
It's not justification, and it shouldn't be justification across the board. It shouldn't be used as an excuse for why crimes committed or or that, oh, well, I mean, we really can't charge them. They're kind of dealing with some struggles.
Mm, yeah.
Everybody's dealing with struggles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, I
it's really
agree.
set a dangerous precedent. So we need to be very careful
Mm-hmm.
with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because having mental health does not automatically make you dangerous. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's all about what are you going to do with it. You can choose to get help.
Mm-hmm.
If you are feeling that you have feelings towards things and you are having thoughts that aren't healthy thoughts, that's on you to go get the help so that you can work through it and not have those thoughts. Again, it's choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Whitley, as we wrap up, can you tell anyone who's watching if they want to work with you, get a hold of you, buy your book? How can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you would just go to Linktree and then it's / live each day with purpose.
Mhm.
I had said in the other episode, I'll say it again, I don't make any money off of these books. These books go directly to Unsilenced Voices, which is an organization that helps victims of domestic abuse, sexual abuse, and trafficking.
Mhm.
Um, so these resources can help you to heal and thrive. There's a trainer's manual and there's also the workbook. But also that website, that link is, your connection to me for email, for any podcast interviews. This interview will be on there.
Mhm.
That's the best way to reach me for coaching. So just, my email, Witlee, Witlee.Ethan, ETHAN at outlook.com. I'd love
Awesome.
to work with you.
Awesome. Yeah. Can you leave us with some words of encouragement?
Yeah. Um, Life is hard.
Yes.
It's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
Um, your progress is not measured by other people's opinion.
Mm.
Um, Take time to focus on you.
Mhm.
Cut out the noise, the negative noise that's telling you something's wrong with you, you're not good enough. Uh, you know, Not true. You
Mhm.
were put on this earth for a purpose.
Mhm.
Um, and it's a purpose that only you can fulfill. And if you leave this earth, uh, that purpose won't be fulfilled. So hold on, keep moving forward. This isn't the end of your story. What
Mhm.
you've gone through or what you've experienced or the struggles you have, that doesn't define you.
Mm.
But definitely work on getting the help that you need, not because something's wrong with you, but we all can better and grow and learn from bettering ourselves and, you know, learning more about ourselves. So self-explore. Who are you? What do you
Mm.
want? What do you like? What are you about? So that when you do show up, people really get to see you, not the trauma you, not the struggling mental health you, but who you are deep down inside. Um, Not everybody's going to be the right type of people to connect with, but work on finding those that you can really connect with that will really fully accept you and embrace you.
Mhm.
Look for that. But if you have any coaching needs or any additional questions, I'm happy to work with you in breaking patterns so that you can achieve the life that you want, um, and have the successful relationships in life and love that you deserve.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you everyone who tune in or who will be watching this. If you're brave like me and Whitley, you're welcome to message me and do Facebook Live like this with me. And yeah, hope you guys have a fabulous day. Thank you so much, Whitley, for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.